Well, happy Monday, everyone. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis here on the Today Show with my friend and colleague, Virginia Clarke. Good morning.
Good morning. We're back.
Yes, we are. And I love our intro. I was just looking at it, how professional it looks and the music and everything. And I know it just conveys that message that, we're global and lots of people share our show and talk to us. But it's been a couple of weeks since we've been together, Virginia.
It has. You've been a busy, busy bee. And we had a
Yes.
holiday.
Yes, it was a holiday last week, and then we had our trip away up north with our friend Ramin, and yeah, he had a good trip. He was here for 11 days, and we did a lot of good work
Good.
up north, and he got to be introduced to some very powerful people and some very important people as we did our workshops.
Perfect.
So yeah, so he got to see the north. And he hasn't had that experience. But we'll talk more about that tonight when we have our meeting.
Absolutely.
So how have you been? How have you been doing for 2 weeks?
Good. Yes, just busy, busy, busy. Yeah, I signed myself up for a Christmas market. So
Tell us about that.
as we've talked before, one of my passions is art. And I love to create. I love to I do stuff like I recycle.
Well, tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Yes. So my hobby name is called Rust and Wood by Virginia. And I'll take old barbed wire, old wood, anything, pieces of antiques, pieces of whatever, unique hooks, anything that I can get my little hands on. And I create stuff. I did the markets quite frequently up until COVID, of course. And yeah, just kind of stepped back. And then this opportunity came up to support a local pet place that's just out of Red Deer, close to me, so called Classic Kennels. And they have their own little rescue. And I thought, you know what? Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Do a Christmas market and just be, especially after everything that's been going on. And it's needed. It's needed. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've been creating. I got my, creative juices flowing.
Yeah, well, maybe describe one of the pieces that you'll be taking, how you made it, and what it's made from. And
yeah, so I and my family knows that I collect things to work with. I have a shed on our acreage that's full of stuff that, I can just go out and pop. So my husband found me this an old wooden toolbox. So literally just round handle, wooden. And so I thought, what can I do with this? So I took some garland that I had, some pine cones, some berries, threw 3 candles in, put a nice bow on there. So it can be a centerpiece on the table at Christmas.
oh, wow.
The beautiful thing about that is everything is detachable. So you can pull it out and you can do fall colors in there if you want, or spring, summer, anything you want. So, it's like a rustic, kind of decor. What I go for, I work with, horseshoes, barbed wire, wood, metal, plastic, anything I can get my hands on. It's in there. Sometimes I like to paint. Most times I just like to put stuff together. So yeah, it's going to be a good market, I think.
Well, that just sounds delightful. You've got me inspired, like to go.
Excellent.
Just to see your stuff.
Thank you.
Great. That's great. And yeah, how cool is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be good. November 30th, 12 to 6 at the Classic Kennels, just out of Red Deer.
Okay. All right. Well, today we thought we would continue my little saga. Last week I got off on a little saga around communication, because communication is so important. And in most relationships, that go south or sideways, it will always boil down to miscommunication. So becoming an effective communicator enhances our personal life, our family life, our business life, our ability to do business. Just even when you go to that market on the 30th, how you connect and communicate ends up in sales. And that's why you're there, to sell your stuff, So
Absolutely.
yeah, so communication is, but we don't just put out the suggestion. We're going to talk today about 7 things you need to be doing to be an effective communicator. Because when you mentioned toolbox, that toolbox would be something great for us to have, or if you find another one, because that's what we do, is provide the tools so people can actually make stuff happen,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, for sure. So there's, when I ask people, so what do you think makes a great communicator? What are the obvious things that people say? So what's it take to be a good communicator? Some people think it's just about being able to talk.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, even just listening. How many of us don't actually listen? They, instead of listening to support that person, we're listening to fix. We're listening to give suggestions. We're not actually listening to that person to hear actually what they need. We are listening to say, oh, how can I fix this? What can I do? So I find that's a big, big problem with communication these days is, that. So we need to listen.
Mhm.
We need
And
to
we're going
listen.
to talk about that, how to do that more
Mhm.
effectively. So
Absolutely.
people will say to me, when I ask the question, so what's it take to be an effective communicator? They usually say, well, you need to be able to speak well and you need to be able to
Mhm.
listen.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much it. Okay.
Okay.
Well, it's way bigger than that.
It is.
And so we're going to talk about that. And the first thing the very first tool we're going to give out there is, in order to effectively communicate, the first job is to create the proper environment. So what does that mean? Well, it means as your husband's running out the door to work and you're hollering from the kitchen, on your way home, get a jug of milk, will you, and bring it back.
Yeah.
That's not good communication.
No.
Or when I was teaching school, the dads would be dropping the kids off, and the kids running through to the playground because they're so excited to be with their friends. And mom is hollering from the van, "Don't give your lunch away today," or something like that. So,
Yeah.
so it's important to create the environment. So what I did, because I was working a lot with couples, that is such an important relationship, and a lot of them have communication issues. So anyway, I just told them, okay, first you need to create what I call a communication station. So that's 2 chairs, and I actually just did this at our workshops up north. When you want to speak to your children or your partner, or you get 2 chairs facing each other, and you're nose to nose, knees to knees, nothing in front of you,
Mhm.
like a coffee cup or a cushion or anything, just nothing
Yeah.
there, right?
Cell phone. No cell phone.
And yeah, and my no cell phone, no TV.
Yeah.
And when the grandchildren were little and they would come for the weekend, the first thing I do is we would get into our chairs, our communication station, to catch up with them.
Mm.
So what have you been doing? Where have you been going? Because that direct contact, eyeball to eyeball, is what really matters.
Mhm.
So when I have something that I need to discuss with my husband, I'll say, Ron, we need to have a little chat. And he'll go, uh-oh, I'll get the chairs. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's called create. It's kind of like, when you do a play, a school play or a concert, it's the behind the scenes
Yeah.
that create the stage show.
Exactly.
So
Setting the scene. Mhm.
setting the scene, setting
Yep.
it up.
Yep.
So if you and I need to have a chat, then we're going to set that up first with a time and a
Mhm.
place and a Zoom, or however we're going to do that. So
Exactly.
yes, you have to set it up. So what do you know about that?
Well, it gives that person your undivided attention. When you set it up that way and there's no distractions, like I said, no phone, no TV, nothing sitting in front of you that you can grab or fiddle, or, that person knows that they have your undivided attention. And that is the most important thing when you're speaking with someone. Undivided attention on both parts. So there isn't the miscommunication there. When you have that scene set up and this is what we're going to do next, right? That's it's that we're setting that right environment so we can focus on what needs to be said and not focus on a million other things going on around us or, beside us. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, because when we get to listening, because you're going to share that, and I'll just add to that most of my clients over the last 32 years, when I'm working with them, it always comes up 90% of the time that they, as children, or even now as adults, do not feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they have no voice and they don't feel like anybody's listening. So environment is number one.
Yeah.
So if you're taking notes, and you should be, because these are the tools, we're giving them to you today. They don't cost you anything as long as you're listening to the show. So we're talking about the 7 key ingredients to effective communication. So the first one is set it up. Environment is number one. Number 2, over to you, Virginia. You just talked about it a little bit, but more on listening.
Listen, yeah. You need to become an active listener. So instead of just sitting there on your phone, whatever, while someone's trying to have a conversation with you, you're actively listening. When we're sitting in that environment, we can actively listen. We don't have those distractions. So, when we feel unheard, we feel dismissed. So we don't want to continue forward. We don't. Why would I share something confidential with you, or something that's heavy on my heart, when I feel like I'm being dismissed, when someone's not actively listening? So when we're listening to someone, we can always listen for those those little nuggets maybe that pop up that we can hang on to and ask questions about later. Because when we're actually listening to someone, actively listening, they're going to tell us what they need. They're going to tell us how they feel. They're going to share with us those important details that maybe, like we say, when we know life is busy, we know that when husband's running out the door to work, or we're running out the door. Yeah. So we can think, oh, you know what? That's something that I need to put in the back of my mind. And when it's my turn to ask a question, then I know what I need to ask, right? When we actively listen, we hear what that other person needs, wants, desires. We can ask those questions because they'll give us little hints and little suggestions of, what they need to feel heard, what they need to feel, loved, anything like that. So, yeah, that's.
Introducing Veteran House Alliance International Monthly 50/50 Raffle. Purchase your ticket today, link on display, and have a chance to win cash and help a great platform supporting veterans.
And one thing that comes to mind, and you're talking about this actually, is when I'm listening, I'm not always just listening to the words. I'm listening to the feelings behind the words.
Mm-hmm.
So if I asked you today, so how are you doing, Virginia? And you went, oh, fine. Right?
Yeah.
Then I'm not listening to the fine. I'm listening to that response. Or it's kind of like the woman who her teenage son came home 3 days in a row. And she said to him, so how was your day, son? It was just fine, Mom. Day 2. How was your day, son? It was fine. And then the third one, how was your day, son? It was just fine. which is what we're going to get into next, is the emotions, right? Yeah, listening for the feelings, because the feelings tell us more than the words. So when we're communicating, we need to be listening for how that person is actually feeling. So are they frustrated? Are they happy? Are they excited? Are they disappointed? And those are the connectors. Well, you sound a little bit down today, Virginia. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
How did your treatment go on Friday? Then you're, like you said, you're honing in on what is in their best interest and needs.
Yes.
And we've been conditioned to listen, wait till that person finishes the sentence so we can jump in. We're not busy listening. We're thinking about how we're going to reply or respond.
Yeah.
Yikes. And how can you do that effectively if you don't even know what the situations are? Because you haven't listened.
Yeah.
This often happens when I get calls from parents and they'll say, I need you to work with my son, or I need you to work with my daughter. They're troubled. There's something wrong. And I'll go, so how old's your son or your daughter? Well, they're 15. Okay, perfect. So when did they turn into this horrible teenager? When did you notice the first change? How old were they when you noticed that they transformed from this sweet little person to this now not so nice person? And I'll have parents always go back and say, why are you asking me that? I said, just think about it. Well, let me see. He was 8. He had just started playing hockey and he never really wanted to. And I'll go, yeah, okay. Well, then I don't know that it's the son that needs to come and see me, but listen.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
So you have a son. You'll know. You do.
Yes.
And I bet you can tell from the way he's communicating how he's feeling. You know when he's down or when he's feeling tired, or I know you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And he'll even, we have that communication where he can look at me and say, Mom, I just need to be alone right now.
Yeah.
And I, okay, let me know what, I'm here. He knows I'm there for him whenever he needs me there. I don't get offended by it. I've taught him that, in this house, we can say how we feel and we're not going to get offended by it. So, and in our space, I'd rather he be honest with me about something than hide it and have something drastic happen. So if he says to me, I just need to be alone right now. Okay, perfect. Thanks. I'll see you later. He knows I'm there when he's ready, and he's not he's not a morning person. So if I have something to say to him, it's not going to be first thing in the morning. So when we're thinking about environment as well and are listening, why would I try and have a conversation with him when he is working through just getting himself going in the morning? No.
Right.
So when we think of all the keys, that effective communication, and we think about environment, that is not the best time. When you're hungry, you're tired, and you're, if you have a toddler and you're trying to, when I'm hungry, I'm sorry, don't talk to me, just feed me.
Right.
I'm not going to listen, just feed me. So when we think about environment, like that is, those are those distractions as well that we're talking about, right? And that listening. Okay, are they whiny? Why? Are they hungry? Maybe they need food. Maybe they, so there's so many things to when we think about communication and our environment and listening and the emotions. And that brings it in. Why am I going to have a conversation when he's, just let him have his coffee and do his thing, and then I can have a chat. Right. So that emotion and that, everything comes together. It really does to have effective communication. Right, Kathy? Feed me. I'm hangry. Don't talk to me. Just feed me. Yeah. So there are things that, if you're paying attention, you're going to know. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because what happens if you choose the wrong environment or you haven't created that? Something's going to go down. Like it's going to end up in a screaming match, or somebody's going to walk out angry, or And the situation that you wanted to talk about never really gets fixed or resolved. And when you're
Exactly.
talking about emotions, and I'm thinking about when I work with my couples, oftentimes when couples need to talk, she starts crying, and then, or vice versa. And then the other person, maybe you're going to talk about, let's say, something financial that's not comfortable or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, now we have to deal with the emotions before we get to the topic.
Yeah.
So I share with my couples, when you're going to have a conversation, whether it's about disciplining the kids or money matters or whatever, put the emotions in a box to one side. And I actually, one couple I worked with many years ago, they were both really emotional and they
Mhm.
never could get anything resolved because they get upset or they cry. And so I went to a particular store that where we know we can buy things very inexpensively, and I bought them a fancy box. And we put it on the counter in their kitchen. And I said, now, when you have to have a conversation, you put all of your emotions in the box. You're going to leave them there, just figuratively, right? You put them there. Or if you want to write them down before you have the conversation, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, put them in the box,
Absolutely.
sit down in your little communication station, talk about what you need to talk about, whether it's the business. They had a business, so a lot of conversations were about the business.
Perfect.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So you have your conversation, you solve the problem. Now you can be angry. Now you can go in your emotion box and see and share your feelings. I'm so frustrated. I'm glad we solved that because before that I was feeling so angry.
Yes.
So you remove the emotions and put them in a box, have your conversation, and then bring them back in.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that's powerful, isn't it?
It and it makes so much sense because, especially when you have that one person. I know in my marriage, I'm the emotional one. So I really have to think hard and put that aside when I need to have a conversation.
Mhm.
Because that was, and as we go through our healing process, as you know, we have many different um, workshops to help deal with traumas and stuff. A lot of that comes back to that. That is, that's how you dealt with stuff. That child comes out and takes over. So, when I think about that, and I know I'm an emotional person, I know, so I really have to sit down. Okay, I need to talk to you about this, and just focus on what needs to be said, which actually brings us to our next one: sound bites. Get to the bottom line. Don't beat around the bush. Don't just say what needs to be said. If I, when we think about finances, and we know finances are one of the hardest topics for couples to talk about, especially nowadays with everything going on. But it's important to sit down and have that conversation. You can even say, you know what, this might be a hard conversation, but it needs to be done. So we need to talk about finances, right? Boom, right there. We need to talk about the budget. We need, stuff like that. So get to the bottom line, say it once, don't repeat yourself. When you're dealing with someone who continually repeats themselves, they feel like they have not been heard.
Mhm.
So if you are talking with someone and they are continually repeating, something's missing there. Maybe we need to look at becoming more of an active listener, so they don't feel like they need to repeat themselves. So that's, part of the sound bites. Do not repeat yourself. Get to the bottom line. Say it once and be that active listener, so that person doesn't feel like they need to repeat themselves again and again and again.
Good point.
Yeah.
I have a story about that too, since we're talking about couples, that I share around how men and women communicate differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you've heard me do this before, but some of our viewers may not have seen me do this before. And this is when I can get on a little bandwagon and be a little dramatic. So so men communicate like this. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. No. All right.
Mhm.
If you think so. Sure. Yeah. The F word comes out. The S word comes out. One word. They can't seem to string a sentence together, is what I'm saying. Okay. It's right. And that's a generalization because there are many, many effective male communicators. But I'm talking just across the board. Think about that. Women. Oh, my girls. Okay, so this is how women communicate. He comes through the door. He doesn't even have his work clothes off, okay, and his boots. And she's at the door. And here she goes. Honey, you'll never guess how much money I saved us today. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to tell you all about it. But you know what? It was kind of cool. So you remember that little red sweater you gave me for my birthday last year? Well, I decided to pull that out of the closet and I put that on and I got the kids dressed and I got them in the car. And oh my God, I just saved us a bag of money. I'm telling you. But anyway, I'll tell you about that later. But in the meantime, I've got the kids in the car and I'm at the red light near the donut shop. And I look over and who do I see? Mary. Remember Mary and Bill that used to live next door to us when we first got married? And they have 2 kids. So she and I signaled each other over to the coffee shop and we bought the kids some juice. Betty had orange juice and Bill had peach juice. But anyway, so we get the kids a treat and then we decide, I told her, I said, why don't you guys come over for a barbecue tomorrow night? And so they're coming over tomorrow night. And oh my gosh, just wait till I tell you what I saved us. So anyway, we get the kids all back in the car and we're heading down to the grocery store. Oh, and then I realized I didn't need to wear the red sweater because it really wasn't that cold out. So I had to stop the car, take the sweater off in the parking lot and get the kids out of their snowsuits. And I went in and I got us a 50-pound bag of flour for half price. That's how women talk.
Yeah.
All around the bush. Rabbit trails. So when I'm working with couples, of course, we want him to become more communicative. So we teach him how to string a sentence together. And we get her to shut up.
Yeah.
Holy man. And that's not effective communication.
No.
So how should that scene be perfected? Well, she waits till he gets in the door, gets his work clothes off, and I'm not talking in the 50s where you take him the paper and his slippers. I'm not talking about that and his little cigar. No.
Yeah.
But you just set it up and you say, honey, you know what? After supper, I have a little surprise for you. I saved us some money today.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And as soon as I hear that incessant talking, did you know that is a reflection of trauma, actually?
Yeah.
It's called a talkaholic. And it's like alcoholic, workaholic. Incessant, nonstop talking like that is a reflection of trauma. So when I take on a new client and that's how they're communicating, I'm going, oh my goodness. We know without even listening that that's going on.
Yeah.
Now, a soundbite.
Yes.
I just took that story of the red sweater and the kids and which was probably about 400 words, and told it in a soundbite. I learned that in my broadcasting training many years ago. You speak about 25 or 30 words and then you take a little breath.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking to the other person, and we teach this in our workshops around podcasting and broadcasting, or if you're working online, the other person's brain has to have time to process what you're saying. So if I'm on the show today and I'm just going to talk to you about how to be an effective communicator, and it's just going to be really delightful, and I want you to take out your notebooks because the beautiful Virginia Clarke has joined me here. I listen to people talking like that on the air. And they call themselves professionals. Well, I'm going to challenge that today. And if you pay attention to professional broadcasters who've been trained, they speak like that. sound
Yes.
bites.
Yeah.
25 or 30 words, take a little breath. And that's very effective when you're working with your family or you're talking with your family. Anything else about sound bites? I love the sound bite part.
Well, and it's when we think of our children, the attention span just isn't there for a whole, conversation. If you're saying when we're talking to our children, oh, and okay, we need to get out of the door. This is along the same line. You need to get your coat on. You need to get your boots on. You did one thing at a time. Go get your coat. Boom, done, perfect. Let's put our boots on. Be specific.
Yeah.
Be specific.
Yes.
They don't need to hear about all 1,500 things that happen throughout the day. There'll be a time and a place for that, to sit down and have that conversation. My husband comes in, hey, honey, how was your day? First, we always ask each other how our day was. That's our first line of communication when we get home. And then we sit there and he'll be like, oh. Then I know he needs to say more. All right, what happened today? Talk to me. What happened today? And that's when we talk about the effective or the active listening and the emotions behind what they're not saying, body language, anything like that. That's part of active listening. You can still see someone's body language, and if they're sitting there like this, do you think they're in a good mood? No, they're not.
No.
Obviously something's going on, right? So active listening, even just observing, part of that listening. So it's
just
so
paying
important.
attention.
So
Paying
important.
attention.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
We welcome you to advertise and promote your goods and services, and or brand your logo to 34 million subscribers on Canada Talks 167. Your investment will go towards our employment programs in the media industry for persons with disabilities and veterans.
Okay.
Well, we need to be able to, just to review, if you're just joining us, setting up how to be an effective communicator, you have to set it up, create the environment, become a different kind of listener, pay attention. Emotions, keeping your emotions out of those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Number 4, sound bites. Slow down. And I tell my facilitators, when you're on the air and you're working online, we need to speak 25% slower than we normally would speak. Because we don't have that body language. We don't have those emotions up front. We're limited.
Yes.
And I can't believe that we did our workshops online for years with no cameras. As a matter of fact, there was an advantage, because that's when men started coming and taking our workshops. Because if they wanted to take a workshop and have a little tear or break down, they weren't going to do that in person.
Absolutely.
Or if they were on camera. And at least now we have the option. If somebody wants to go off camera during a workshop, they can do that. So that became very important. But we only had voice. It was weird when I think about it.
Yeah.
And and the next one is feedback. Now, I like to use the example of Ed Koch. He was a re-elected mayor of New York City. And he would go down to the Bronx, down to Queens, down to all the neighborhoods. And he would actually ask people, how am I doing? Meaning, as the mayor, how am I doing? Well, we could use some housing money. We could, and he got feedback. But a lot of people are not confident to ask for feedback. And feedback can be, can I feed back to you what you just said to me so I understand totally what you're saying?
Yes.
And you're saying to me, shut up. You're telling me to stop talking so much. And it's good to get the feedback. And I just want to share, we processed 26 people, or excuse me, 25 people through our workshops a couple of weeks ago. And I asked for feedback. And they have to do on a scale of 10.
Oh,
Give us feedback. So ease of understanding the concepts. The workshops were meaningful and relevant. I had fun. The facilitator was professional. The environment, see, the environment. My needs were met physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. I received value for the time spent. I feel I'm making progress after the retreat. I would like to do more of this type of work on myself. I'm leaving refreshed and renewed. But there's risk involved when you ask for feedback because you might not get the answer that you're looking for. But I have to say, out of the 25, we got perfect score on at least 20 of them. And the other lower scores were 8 and 9. So don't ever be afraid, because when you ask for feedback, you get better. And it was through doing that over the years. They weren't always that. They weren't always 10s.
Yeah.
Sometimes there was a 3 or a 5. That's when I knew I had to get better in that area.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So feedback is so important. What do you know about feedback, Virginia?
Well, it's if you are feeding back to that person what you know, is this what I hear you say? Repeat to them what you heard. Miscommunication will be less. If I said to, say my husband and I were having a conversation, all right, just to be clear, you said da 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 da. And he'll be, well, no, that's not what I meant, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then there's no miscommunication, because that's when arguments start too. Miscommunication. That's when feelings are hurt. That's when, things go sideways. If you're just, oh, okay, fine, bye, and leave, and then you're sitting there going, well, that I didn't feel like,
Yeah.
those questions. Say those things first. So when you're leaving that environment, you're feeling good. You're both feeling good. You're both feeling like everything got resolved. We all said what we needed to say. And, then there's no miscommunication. That feedback is so important. When we're talking about communication, and again, the same thing when we're talking about workshops or anything like that. How am I doing as a facilitator? Yeah, what can I work on? You only want to get better at what you're doing. And that's the same with when you're communicating one-on-one with someone. Okay, let me get this clear. This is what I heard. Is that what you meant to say? And then that way they're, if that person is maybe having a hard time, and we say male because we know that they have a harder time, especially emotionally. Say, okay, is this what you meant? Is this what you meant to say? And then there's no hurt feelings.
That's right.
And that's what we want to avoid, especially when it's important. I mean, all communication is important, but when we're thinking of couples or families, that the feelings are so important going forward, because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. That's not what we're after. So miscommunication in even in your business, miscommunication is a killer. It's so bad for business as well. Be clear, be precise on what you want to say, and give that feedback. Hey, how am I doing? Are you, is there any questions? Do you have any concerns about what we talked about? At the end of each of our workshops, that's one thing we always ask our clients. Did you understand what we talked about today? Do you have any questions? Is there, can I clear things up for you? So, I mean, we always leave that open, because we don't want them leaving their environment, our environment that we've set up, confused or hurt or feeling like they weren't heard or misunderstood. So yeah,
Exactly.
feedback's so
Kathy,
important.
Kathy has a good comment here.
Mhm.
And she's using a word that I was going to pick up on after you were finished.
Yeah.
It is amazing how people all think and feel differently. Well, that has to do with their trauma.
Yes.
That has to do with their past. You cannot assume that you know how someone feels. That is my experience. Absolutely. Because how many
Absolutely.
times have people told us how we should feel? Well, you shouldn't feel that way. You have no reason to be angry,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Why are you
Yes.
angry? You have no right to be angry. Yeah, we do.
Mhm.
You know, when you and I both were diagnosed with cancer, I don't know about you, but I was pissed off.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was angry. And I didn't
Absolutely.
care if I hurt the doctor's feelings. They get paid enough money to have their feelings hurt. So, over to you.
Yeah.
But you see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Or I know how you feel. No, you don't. We both had cancer.
Yes.
Had, noticed I said.
Mhm.
But how you felt about that and how I felt about that, two totally different worlds.
Exactly.
A lot of similarities, a lot of common ground, but because of age, background, experience, right?
And just that
Okay.
emotional part of it.
Oh,
That emotional part is,
absolutely.
everyone deals with their emotions differently. That's why when we are becoming a more active listener and we can hear those emotions behind the words,
Mhm.
everybody deals with emotions differently. So
That's right.
that's why it's so important to pay attention. Pay attention.
Yeah. And I have, and you have, and all of our listeners and viewers out there, we have a right to our feelings
Mhm.
because they're ours, but we
Yes.
have to take ownership of them. And if I get angry and punch my fist through a wall, I have to take responsibility for that. Okay.
Yes.
Not,
Yes,
not the
you do.
drywaller,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And so, yes, don't be afraid to ask questions. If there's something being communicated that you don't understand, you
Yeah.
have a right to ask. People ask me stuff all the time and they'll say, "Oh, I don't want to be interrogating you," but I said, "You're not interrogating me."
Mhm.
But if they do interrogate me, then I bring that up and say, "Why are you interrogating me?"
Yeah.
That's your own insecurity. But to ask questions is a good thing. That's how we learn.
Yes.
And I always, a standard practice, like you've already said, when we're working with our clients and we present them with their home assignment, our final say is, "Are there any questions?
Mhm.
Is everybody clear on how to do the home assignment?" Because
Yeah.
when you're home by yourself and you don't have access to us and you get stuck because you didn't
Yeah.
ask the questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all
Yes,
good.
exactly. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, let's talk about managing our language. This is
Yes.
big.
This is
This
big.
one is a show. Each one of these is a show by itself.
Yeah.
We're just giving you the tip of the
Sound
iceberg here.
bites.
Sound bites.
We're giving you
Yes.
the sound bites.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. So let's talk about managing our language. Now,
Yeah.
when I listen to people speak, I'm listening to the language they're using. Because it all starts with that self-talk. And boy, you and
Mm.
I had to really work hard on that voice inside of us telling
Mm.
us to believe in certain lies or certain things. So you first have to manage that. You have to manage your own self-talk. What are you
Yeah.
saying to yourself? I'm not beautiful. I'm this, I'm that. I've got this, I've got that. So therefore I can act this way. Dee 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 dee
Mm.
dee. What are you saying to yourself every day,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Then how are you talking to other people?
Mhm.
Excuse me. How
Yeah.
are you talking to other people? What are you saying to them?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's when you're trying to have a conversation and when you're trying to think of what to say, I mean, that's different, right? Instead of just blurting something out, taking a pause and thinking about what you need to say, or, my husband and I will look at each other. He goes, I'm not sure exactly how what I'm going to say is going to come out the right way, he says. So, I mean, putting that first, okay, all right. So that means I'm open mind, no judgment. Let's hear what's going on. And then that's when we think about feedback or asking questions, right? That's when that person isn't sure, I don't know if this is going to come out right, or you might misinterpret what I'm going to say because I'm not sure exactly how I want to word it. So, when we think about managing our language, just using strong words, when we sit there and go, yeah, and when we're trying to have a conversation, if you're trying to catch your thoughts, pause. No, don't go,
Yeah.
like it's, think about what you want to say. If you're going to sit down and have this conversation, maybe write some things down, what you really need to say, because when you're in the middle of it, and if you're an emotional person like I am, sometimes, I'm tripping on those emotions, trying to get those words out. And if I have something in front of me, okay, I need to focus on this and what I want to say, then I can sit down and say what I need to say, and then not trip on those emotions, and use my words, like, just use your words. It's humming and hawing, and I find listening to myself, and it's like, okay, Virginia, you need to stop going, uh. People get caught up on that. And they're not hearing what you need to say then.
That's right.
The Disability Channel would like to thank our existing sponsors. We really appreciate the support and kindness from the BIAs across the GTA, Ontario, Canada, and our friends in the USA. We love making new friends. Thank you for supporting our existing employment programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fillers because you don't have the immediate answer to come back with. And that's why people do that. Another filler is, Yeah, there's lots of fillers, right? You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, I went over to your place the other day, and I really love that stuff in your shed. And I think I'm going to come to that market on the Saturday,
Right?
Those are fillers. And I hear lots of professional broadcasters on national television using those fillers. And that's just a stall tactic.
You can always say to someone, if you're not sure, can I get back to you on that?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. If you need to sit back and think about how you need to answer a question, or, you have a client that comes back with something that, there we go, let me get back to you on that. And it's still an answer. It might not be exactly what they were looking for at the time, but it buys you some time to really think about what you want to say, so you're just not saying anything.
Yeah, and that's called managing your language.
Yeah.
And if I'm making phone calls, like today, it's business day today, and I'm making phone calls, I write down before I make the call what I want the outcome to be. This person, I need them to make a commitment to be on a show. This person, I'd like to talk to them about being a facilitator. This person, looking for some sponsors for the shows. So I have a goal. And in order for me to achieve that goal, I need to have management of my language, or they never really hear what it is that I need or want. Exactly.
When you have those outcomes written out, you can look at them and you're gonna, exactly what you're gonna say then, because that's what you're looking at. That's your goal. And when you sit down and you're having this conversation with someone, okay, this is what we need to work on today. Especially if you're someone who when you hear yourself and you find yourself at a loss for words, that writing stuff down is perfect.
Yeah.
Write down your goals, your intentions. I need to have a conversation today. I found for myself, even having to go through chemo, you get a little bit of a chemo brain. I need to write some things down so
Mhm.
I can go through my day. It's like making your checklist for the day. You know,
Right.
if you are a person who likes to take notes, write things down, there's nothing wrong with that. It works the same with your communication, to sit down and write some goals down or write some thoughts down that, oh, I need to speak to this person. This is what I have to say. This is my goal. Like you
Oh,
said, this is the outcome I'm looking for. Perfect. I know exactly what I'm going to say.
yes,
I need to sit down and get out what you need to say.
exactly. And sometimes I've been accused of that technique that I use to, get what we need and want, and it's to motivate and help other people. It's not about Laurie. It's about what can I do to help you. And if we both win, if I get what I want and you get what you want, that's called motivation.
Mhm.
If I get what I want, but you don't get what you want, that's called manipulation. But the language is very closely connected between motivation and manipulation. And that's why people need to be very careful when they go to hear a speaker or um, whoever they're listening to, that there's a win-win for both of you. If there's not, then it's not motivation, it's manipulation.
That
So
makes sense.
we have to be very careful about that, because the language we use to manipulate is exactly the same as the language we use to motivate. So how you tell the difference is we both win.
Mhm.
So whether you're, convincing your kids to have a shower, uh, whether it's you're, selling them on the idea they need to wear their boots today because it's going to snow tomorrow, it's going to snow later.
Mhm.
That's all about motivation, not manipulation, but it can be done in a manipulative way.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
And how you ask questions and give
Mhm.
your feedback as well. When we think about the difference between the manipulation and the motivation, those are going to be a big sell on whether or not that person feels like they are being motivated or being manipulated.
That's right.
You know,
Because they
that
won't feel,
feedback.
they'll know. They know. People aren't stupid. A lot of people, a lot of people think people are stupid, and we're not stupid. All right. Well, to review our 7 tools in our toolkit, and we just gave you the tip of the iceberg. First of all is environment. If you want to
Yes.
write them down, the environment needs to be established. We need to become active listeners,
Yes.
keeping the emotions at bay, taking care
Mhm.
of those emotions first or after,
Yeah.
speaking slower, softer, kinder, sound bites, being open to receiving feedback. That's huge.
Mhm.
That's why I'm still in business after 32 years. I was always open to feedback. How did that go for you? Oh, you didn't want that? Okay, I didn't know that. See? Ask
And
questions.
how do you get better?
Yeah, ask questions.
Mhm.
If there's something you don't understand, or if that's a word you don't know. I had this girlfriend one time. She was an author, and she had this big, huge, flowery way of talking. All right.
Mhm.
This was years ago. And of course, the last one, managing your language. But I'll just share this. She'll leave a voicemail and she'd say, I just energetically got the feeling that maybe something is going on for you. And whether or not things are lined up for you today. And so I just thought I'd make a call and let you know what was going on in my mind and in my heart about you. I thought, just pick up the phone and say, how are you doing, Laura? Don't be giving me your opinion of how you think I'm doing based on your stargazing knowledge, right?
Yes.
So one day I
Right.
just told her, I said, just call me and ask me how I am, and I'll give you the proper feedback that you need. All right. Well, our time is up.
It's
I hope
crazy.
we've given, one thing I do know, you can't ever mess with the content of our shows. They're all based on years and years and years of experience and knowledge and clients and customers, feedback we've received over the years. We are so content rich, and people can join us every Monday and get a workshop. And what's it costing them? Nothing. But it is going to cost you something, because I'm going to ask you to get very vigilant in sharing the show.
Yeah.
Share it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Look up Disability Channel Facebook. Become a member of the Disability Channel Facebook page. Do a friend request. And then you get everything and all of our shows that are going on and other news about our channel.
Mhm.
So just putting that out there, that's what it costs you to show up on Mondays. Okay?
Yeah.
Virginia, have a
Yeah.
great rest of the day. And thank you for being here today. Anything else you want to say in closing?
I guess just don't be scared to say what you have to say.
There we go.
It's important. I guess thinking, when we dealt with our cancer, I like to research. I like to ask questions. I want to know, what the doctors know. Not all doctors appreciate that, but I was never scared to ask my questions. Even if I didn't get the answers or they couldn't answer, I still, I need to say, this is what I need. I just didn't sit there and, so don't be scared to communicate. Don't be scared to ask those questions and listen. And if you see someone, and their body language is telling you something's wrong, it's okay to ask them, are you okay? Is everything okay? Can I help you? Can I do something? So just keep giving, be kind. I guess that's the main thing I'm saying. We need so much of that nowadays in this world. Just keep on that kindness wagon, people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Virginia, thank you. We'll be back tomorrow at 9:00 with Dr. Ramin Modiri, and we're going to ramp up our show. We usually just talk about money, but we've decided we're so, we got such great feedback from our talk on the American election, because of course Dr. Ramin does all his research.
Yes.
So we're going to be more current, what's going on in the world, what's happening, a situation that occurred that maybe shouldn't have, a little bit more controversial, if you will. So if you like controversy, join us tomorrow morning at 9:00. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great
Have a
rest of
great
the
day.
day. You bet.
Thank you.
Love is the only way. Love is the only way. Love is the only way. Take a breath. Let it be alright. Take a breath. Let it be enough right now. Let this moment be what it is. Let this moment be your doorway to bliss. Seeking love, 'cause it's seeking you.